Hi guys, it's finally finished, but we're all still stuck in Supernatural Purgatory. This podcast is a rewatch of all 15 seasons, and hopefully our way to finally escape this show.
Join us once a week for a fun, informal discussion on each episode and leave comments on any specific upcoming plot points you'd like us to discuss.
Awesome. We got
Escaping Purgatory!
Yeah, Escaping Purgatory. I'm so excited for this. I've been wanting to rewatch Supernatural for ages, and this is the kind of perfect excuse to do it, I think.
It kind of is. And not feel weird about just sitting down watching hundreds of hours of this TV show by yourself and fuming by yourself about it.
Yeah, I need someone to discuss it with, especially not seeing friends at the moment. You need someone to talk to about it and process it, I think.
Definitely.
So obviously we watched the first episode this week, so 101, which is called Pilot. I was surprised when I found out it was called Pilot. I thought maybe they would have come up with something different to call this episode, but whatever.
At the same time, it was kind of nice that it wasn't given the name of the creature that you were fighting, or they were gonna go hunt, because it kind of left it open. Had I known it was gonna be called Lady in White or whatever, I probably would have been nah, whatever.
Yeah.
And also I feel like most TV shows actually start with literally pilot as their pilot because they just don't know where it's gonna go.
That's
But
true.
I don't know.
Maybe if they don't have it all written out, and most people, I think, know the ghost story, the woman in white. So yeah, it would have been a bit of a giveaway.
Mm-hmm. And
so,
it feels like it would have been for how good the episode was. The woman in white kind of seems like a throwaway. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It wasn't really 100% focused on the woman in white. It was everything. So I think as lame as Pilot is, it's actually kind of an apt description of what it is.
Exactly. I mean, so this originally aired on the 13th of September 2005, and I was just what was I doing then? So I was 15.
God,
yeah.
I don't. That's weird. I don't like thinking about that far back.
So this episode was written by Eric Kripke, of course it was, and directed by David Nutter, who apparently has done loads of pilots over his career, just done pilots for tons and tons of different stuff. So I guess that's why they got him on board. And it was generally well received. So it's got 8.7 out of 10 stars on IMDb, and all the reviews I read were oh my god, this is such a great beginning to this show.
Yeah. There was one review that I read, and I was the review is by Cubs and Culture. It's a little further down when you look at all the reviews, and the title is A Solid Opening to a Great Show.
Yeah.
And it truly is. I mean, this was done in 2019. So, I think August of 2019, they were just about to go into the 15th season. So, when we get to those later seasons, we'll talk about it. But to go back and say it's a solid opening for a great show, absolutely.
Yeah, exactly. So I was saying this to you before we started this, but I had to watch this on DVDs because I don't have access to Supernatural on Netflix at the moment. But it's such a nostalgic experience. No one even watches DVDs anymore. That's how old this show is.
That's true. So I guess we should mention that we're actually in two separate countries. So I'm in North Carolina. So I actually do have it available to me on Netflix. Which actually I wanted to ask you if you ever found out which song played in the episode to see if it's actually different.
Yeah, so I found some on the Supernatural wiki, and there was a song by the Eagles of Death Metal that got changed. There were a couple. I think the ones they kept were the iconic ones. So I think Back to Black and Highway to Hell are still on there, but most of the other songs seem to have changed.
I mean, this is how as soon as because they play a song in the first episode, and I was like, let me Shazam this. I'm like, God, I haven't used Shazam in forever. So much so that I had to actually re-download the app. So, so the song that was played after, like after they get gas or petrol, whatever you want to call it, is "A Gift to the World" by Loveless. Okay. So I don't know if that's different to your DVD version or. Oops.
Oh, I'm not sure. The list they have. Let me see if I can find it again. But yeah, I'll look that up. We'll discuss it at the end of the episode. I'll see if I can find that page I was on. But yeah, there were definitely some differences. The one that jumped out for me was Eagles of Death Metal because I'm a fan of theirs. But I'll see if there's any other ones. So like, the first thing that I noticed was like the title screen is so spooky. Like it sort of like shoots onto the screen almost like the way the ghosts move in Supernatural, like kind of juddery and blue, which I thought was really cool. And like it made me think about the ones that are coming up like in other seasons. I'm like, oh, it was so quaint.
So
go ahead.
Sorry, carry on. I was gonna say, like, did you notice that when so there's the whole like opening scene with Mary. So okay, I didn't know this. I know this is like going completely off, but we can cut
it
out. Some reason, for whatever reason, I never looked up if Mary was the same actor from the beginning to when she comes back.
Yes, no,
and I was like, because I haven't gone back to rewatch this in forever. So when it was her, I was like, oh, they actually, didn't try to like retcon her and put someone else in. But anyway, so, but I did notice that whole like soundscape, if you want, for when she's up on the ceiling and like, if you notice, it's basically the beginning of every, like the opening sounds. So that, that kind of whoosh and explosion. That is what they used to like demonstrate her being on fire and everything. So I thought that was kind of cool that like.
I'd never noticed that. That's amazing.
It really is. I was just like, this is so cool. Like this is how they set up like how they're going to introduce the rest of, this series. It was it was very cool. It's very cool.
I never noticed that. That's a pretty amazing. I've never been able to listen to it again now without thinking like, oh, that was Mary on
Mary's
the ceiling.
on fire on the ceiling. Yeah,
exactly. Like it really hit me quite hard in the like feelings when you're seeing them all like, oh, good night to Sam. Yeah. You're like, oh, this is the only time they were all together and like happy before all the monster stuff happened. I think like watching it's quite emotional watching this episode. I think you messaged me while you were watching it and said like, they don't know what they're going to go through.
It's so true though. Like it's such an innocent beginning and it's like, but at the same time, I'm like, because of where we know like the situation behind it, I'm just like, ooh, do they really know what's going to happen? Like,
that's very true.
I also, I'm going to say this, like, okay. When you see who's in Sammy's bedroom, like he's obviously wearing a coat. Like, wouldn't you actually go in there and see like, oh, why are you wearing a coat? There's no need to be wearing a coat. You're supposed to be asleep, not like just sort of.
Yeah, absolutely. Like, though in profile, I thought this when I was watching it as well. In profile, they did manage to get an actor that does look like Jeffrey Dean Morgan in profile. I think because I was like, oh, he does look like
they could have actually put him in there. Like
That's true.
I'm not sure. Like I didn't look at the credits, so but because it's a pilot episode, they're not going to bring in tons of actors for it.
Exactly. So I think like the first few scenes, like I know they were going for like horror movie, but they really did feel like scarier than other stuff that I remember watching from Supernatural, like. Just the way it's set up and the way they frame it, as you're watching it from like an outsider's point of view, like you would a horror movie where there's something coming up, but what's it going to be? But like the whole sort of fire scene. There's like the iconic like take your brother outside, like oh.
Take your brother outside as fast as you can. Don't look back.
Okay. You might want to leave this in the comments if you're reading. Do you mind spoilers for upcoming seasons episodes? Because I'm trying to not say certain things. I'm like, we're talking about a rewatch, so we know what's going to happen. So just, if you're listening and you want to leave a comment, just, leave a comment, say, yeah, it's fine to do spoilers or do spoiler warning or something. We haven't really decided on that point yet, but
and let's say maybe from this point on, then we're going to talk about spoilers in this episode, unless someone tells us otherwise in the next one. Because I want to start talking spoilers, I think.
Yeah. I mean, we're going to have, for each episode, if you're watching it before watching the episode, that's on you. That's not on us. We told you that we're going to be talking about these episodes. If you haven't watched it, oh well, so have you.
Yeah, don't listen to us first. So let's get into the good stuff. So the fire happens. It's sad, but we all knew it was coming. And then it says 22 years later, which is a big old time jump. And we cut to Sam at Stanford, and it says there that he's at Stanford, and we get to meet Jessica, who is great, by the way. I stan Jessica.
I was trying to I recognized the actress, but I could not put to
No, I can't
she's
place
probably
her.
on another CW show, to be honest. But anyway, sorry, carry on.
She's great. Talk about supportive college girlfriends. I'm not sure how. I mean, someone can probably tell us. I'm sure. I'm not sure how old Sam is supposed to be here. I know Dean's 26. I wrote that down because he actually mentions it. So I'm guessing that makes Sam 22, 23. It would make sense,
I think
right?
So. Yeah.
So, just saying, for having such a great girlfriend at such a young age, she's super supportive. Yeah, you should go to that interview.
Yeah. No,
Get
you're
your
right.
law
You are
degree.
right. Mm-hmm. So I mean, by the sounds of it, they probably met because he's just he's just finished his college years. So he's just done 4 years at Stanford, I'm guessing, and they didn't really say which university he went to, but so they probably met. She's obviously smart. If she's in Stanford, generally people who go there are very, very smart. So kind of makes sense that she's supportive of him and everything.
Yeah, that's true.
I also they say that because he's applying for law school and he did the LSATs. So I looked up what a good grade is, and I think he said he did a 175
Or
out of
174,
180.
yeah, I think, yeah. Wow.
Yeah, so he if you don't know it, you don't actually realize how. I mean, you can be smart for tests, but obviously, Sam is very, very smart.
And they're clearly trying to set him up as the smart one in this episode because
definitely.
He's the one doing the research and stuff later on in it, when they're researching the case. So they go to a Halloween party, which is, I just think, is really funny. I don't know why. I just thought, why? Because they show all these different monsters, and you're like, oh yeah, funny. And he's like, oh, I don't really like Halloween, but doesn't really elaborate. I don't understand why, the fire didn't happen at Halloween, and I guess your dad hunts monsters, but what's wrong with Halloween?
He's okay, major spoiler for much later on, but he's afraid of clowns. So think about how many clowns come up at Halloween.
That's true.
So I'm wondering if it's a little bit to do with that, and I mean, if you're hunting monsters every day for at least 18 years, you're gonna get tired of people oh, you're a ghost, yay.
Yeah, that's true.
I feel it's more fatigue versus oh, look, it's Halloween again. Nah.
Or maybe he just doesn't think it's funny because he's like, these things are real, actually. Why make it fun? So they go to the Halloween party. It's all very cute. It's only there to sort of introduce Sam as a character, I guess, because they're going I'm going to go to law school. I don't like Halloween. I have a dark past.
Yeah.
Before introducing Dean, so they
and also they also mention that his family's not going to be proud of him for getting into law school, one of the best law schools.
Something that your family would normally be proud of you for. No, not my family. We're different.
Okay, I also have to make another like small observation. Like in the 15 years of acting, his face is still, he does the same facial expressions in the very first episode
Yeah.
as he did in the very last one. Like just saying, putting that out there right there.
Jared made
I
some
mean,
choices and he stuck with them, so good for
yes,
him.
he really did. But so it's kind of interesting because I know we've spoken about this like ourselves. And I'm not sure if you're actually 100% agreeing with me or not, but I've always seen Supernatural as Dean's point of view, but this episode is very much Sam's point of view.
So when it was originally written, I don't know if you've ever heard this before, but Eric Kripke literally said Sam was supposed to be the main character. So he's like Luke Skywalker, and Dean is like Han Solo, and that's like a quote from him. So yeah, Dean was supposed to be the sidekick to Sam, and I think that's why it's written like that.
Mm-hmm.
And you can kind of see it in the like how Dean's introduced, right? He's all like happy-go-lucky. I think his first line of the whole episode is "Easy, Tiger."
Oh, easy, Tiger. Dean?
Yeah, it is. I think you're right.
Which is just okay. Let's get personal here. Are you a Dean girl or a Sam girl?
I'm a Dean girl.
Yes, yeah,
like all the way. And you know, I've always had a preference for people like guys with longer hair, but it just I don't know, it's just there's something about Dean's character that's just more appealing, I guess. Not in like, I don't know. He's like you said, he's introduced so easygoing and just like happy-go-lucky, and it just feels less like I'm putting on airs, if you want, or something. I don't know. It's yeah. No.
So there's a very popular fandom theory that like eldest siblings, particularly like daughters, identify very strongly with Dean because of the like caretaking role that you kind of have to do as like an eldest sort of sibling, and I'm like, I understand that.
Okay, but that doesn't quite fly with me because I'm a younger sibling.
I know, so that's why I asked. I was like, maybe she's a Sam girl. I don't know, like.
No,
but
no, he's just too. I don't know. Yeah, I don't know.
We'll talk more about this as the seasons go on, because it never changed for me. I feel like for some people it maybe changed over the seasons. They became went one way or the other. But so they're introduced. They have a fight. Like Sam realizes that it's Dean, and he says the iconic line like, "Dad's been on a hunting trip and hasn't been home in a few days."
Dad's on a hunting trip, and he hasn't been home in a few days.
Like, because he's, talking in code because Jessica's there, because Sam's like, anything can say for it, Jessica can say for me, which I love, by the way.
Yeah, I know. And then he's like, hang on a second, maybe not.
Yeah, like immediately like realised, oh wait, there are things that we can't talk about in front of her. So they go like, this really got to me, okay. So initially Sam doesn't want to go. And he says, like, you can do this. And Dean says, I don't want to do this alone. And I was just like, no, don't say this to me now. But yeah, that hit quite hard, I think. Like, because, let's not talk. I don't want to talk about the cursed episode. But that's how I'll be referring to it. The episode that has no name. But like, that was pretty tough. And because he's so easygoing, and I think it shows you the first sign of like vulnerability and like cracks in Dean's character, right? That like, I don't want to do this alone. Like I probably am fully capable of doing it, but I don't want to.
Like I guess because he's afraid. Like, so you find out that the dad has been missing for 3 weeks, and by the sounds of it, he can go like off and come back in a few days. So for him to be gone for 3 weeks, obviously, like Dean doesn't want to find his dad dead. Yeah. And obviously that comes, I guess, as the character develops later on in the series, like why that would stick so much. I like, because anyway, we won't get into that right now because this is a huge plot spoiler, so we won't do that.
Yeah.
But yeah. So it's kind of interesting that sense of vulnerability kind of starts there.
Yeah, exactly. So they go to the Impala, and first of all, I have questions, and I can't remember. This may be solved in the next few episodes. But why does Dean have the Impala? Because like clearly his dad was driving from place to place. So why? Anyway, and he goes through some stuff, and one thing I noticed that he has is a dictaphone with a message on it, and my immediate thought was, oh, I also had one of those when I was 15. With the tiny cassettes.
yeah. I guess that's the time setting, things that didn't quite like age too well. But I mean, it didn't age horribly either. So
it's just flip phones and printed web pages. Like that does invoke the early 2000s for me. Yeah. We used to print things off the internet. No one does that anymore. But that was a nice little blast from the past. Also, I just want to just take a moment here to talk about Dean's jacket. I don't know, but I found it really distracting that because when he first turns up, he's wearing like a black jacket, and the sleeves, I don't know if they're supposed to have buttons on them, but he clearly has them undone, so they're like flapping around his hands. Like, go and watch it. Because it really bothered me for some reason. I was like, why are you wearing this hideous jacket? It's also clearly his dad's jacket because it's too big for him, but
yeah, but at the same time, like, so we established that he's 26. You are basically a fully grown man at that point. Like, at least, like, you're not going to get, unless you, like, build muscle, you're not really going to get any bigger.
Yeah.
So why would you wear your dad's jacket? And why is it so much bigger? Like, because, I mean, it, like, John doesn't look that big. Like, he probably looks about the same size as Dean. So, like... Yeah. Why is it
like, I don't know.
I mean, he is very childish. I will give you that. Like, you know, the way that he like hits on Jessica in like such an obnoxious way. I didn't like that. I thought that was really gross. And I was like, he's supposed to be a playboy, whatever. But like, it made me cringe so bad. Like, you don't do that. It's your brother's girlfriend. Like, no, like, stop, like, I fucking her. It's weird.
And they hadn't seen each other in 2 years at this point, so what's the first thing you do? Like, beat up your brother and then hit on his girlfriend? Like, come on. That's not going to get anything go with you. I mean, it did, but, you know.
But, yeah, no, so I didn't actually notice that with the jacket. I mean, I noticed it was too big, but I didn't notice it was, like, flapping around.
The sleeves just bothered me. So, it then cuts to, like... the setup for the monster of the week, basically. So you see a guy like driving down the road. He picks up a hitchhiker who's like, I guess like a woman in a white dress with quite a low cut top, and like he thinks he's getting lucky basically because she seems to be hitting on him in a very weird way. But
like, take me home. I want to go home.
It's all very sultry, and there's like close up of her boobs and stuff. And then the best thing about that scene is that you get the first blood splatter of the whole series.
Oh, that's right. I forgot about that. That came pretty late in the episode. Like, usually, like, as the show went on, it was like before the like title screen.
Exactly.
Like, that's the transition to the title screen.
I was like, yes, excited car. It was great, and it was on the bridge. Yeah, that you will see. So yeah, the guy dies. It's very sad, and then it cuts back to Sam and Dean, and they're at a garage, and like I guess getting some petrol for the Impala. I wonder if it's petrol. It must be petrol. It can't be diesel. Anyway, and they're kind of. I think this is more like establishing their characters again. So like Sam's like digging on Dean for like liking classic rock and digging through his cassette tapes.
It's the greatest hits of mullet rock.
And having cassette tapes, which I think is really kind of a funny observation, because right now, like, I guess the implication is like having CDs. They're like, why would you have CDs now? Like, again, it's aging it a little bit.
Also rude though, because I definitely still had a cassette tape player when I was in 2005.
I think so. I did too. Yeah.
Yeah. We used to make mixtapes for each other at our school. It was very cute. It was all cute.
It was. It was also like, I didn't realize how many sort of key phrases come up in this first episode. Like, it's very, I feel like it's very unique to this show to have so many, like, the whole, like, I'm going to get the quote wrong, but...
No, go, say it, and I'll correct you.
It's like rule number 1, driver picks the music, passenger shuts his cake hole.
House rules, Sammy. Driver picks the music, shotgun shuts his cake hole.
Driver picks the music, shotgun shuts his cake hole, and I know
That's
it because
right.
I have a sign of it on my car.
So it's just like when they said that, I was like, I can't believe it was in the first episode. Like, that was something that, like, even though it's never really, I think it's said like one other time, or maybe even like 2 more times in the whole series that I can recall. Like, it's like everybody knows it. Like, as soon as you hear it, you're just like, oh, yeah, the passenger does shut his cake hole. Though I swear, like, I swear it was pie hole though. So when he said cake hole, I was like, what?
No, it definitely was cake
And
hole.
it is cake hole for sure, but I always thought it was pie hole, just because, you know, Dean loves pie.
Yeah. So I don't know how it was for you, because Sam puts a tape in the, like, tape deck, I guess that's what you call it, and Back to Black plays by AC/DC, which is the first kind of like rock music they played. But I'm actually looking at the list of music now, and it's not on the Netflix version. So
yeah, so that's what I was saying earlier. So that's the song that was played was "A Gift to the World" by Loveless.
And at the very end of the episode as well, Highway to Hell plays, and instead it's Smile Like a Tiger by The Bad Touch, which I don't even know that song. They've all changed. The only song that's there's 2 songs that are the same, I think, which is Gasoline by Ginger and She Cheated on a Cheater by Keith Rosier. But like they're like the classic songs, Back in Black, Highway to Hell, which are like really, people still listen to those on their like Supernatural playlists.
Yeah.
Have been taken off of Netflix, which is a shame really. So like, go watch the DVDs, guys. I'm sure they're not that expensive anymore. Or
you can do what we're going to do and wait until like the Blu-ray collection comes out.
Ooh, I'm so excited for that. Super excited.
Whatever that is.
I'm looking forward to the box set. It's going to be great. Okay, so they drive off. They get to Jericho, which is apparently not a real place.
Yeah, I heard that too.
And they roll up on and see the car with the blood splattering, and the police are already there. So of course, like, Dean goes through digging through all his FBI like cards and things, and Sam just looks at him like disapprovingly. Like,
well, so actually, to go back a little bit, when they're at the petrol station, he also brings up the credit card scam, like how they fund themselves.
Yeah.
So he's already like being disapproving of that at that time. So seeing this extra like, oh, you have fake FBI badges and what have you.
Exactly. Like Sam seems always like resigned to it, because I guess he grew up with this. He's like, yeah, whatever. And he doesn't think he's going to be there that long. He says about 3 or 4 times in the episode, like, I'm going to be back on Monday at Stanford. So he's just going along with it.
Yeah, no, that's a good point. That's a very good point, that he's like, and can you imagine the awkward situation you're in? Like, you're trying to be a lawyer, and yet your dad and your brother are these like these people who are sorry, I'm just thinking it's so funny. Like, he's trying to be such a good guy, and they're not necessarily bad guys, but they're morally
ambiguous sometimes.
Ambiguous, yes. Yeah. That's the word I was looking for.
Neutral. Yeah. So
well, he's trying to be a goody.
But he still goes along with it, though. This is the thing I don't get about Sam. It's like, he still goes along with it. So when like Dean's pretend to be a federal marshal, he goes along with it, just standing there dressed in his like hoodie and jeans. Like, anyone's going to believe it. Like, they're looking at them like, what are you saying?
I mean, they even make the comment of like, you guys are a little young, and Dean just sort of brushes it off like, oh, thank you.
Federal marshals.
You're too a little young for marshals, aren't you?
Thanks, that's awfully kind of you.
Yeah, it's very like classic like con man kind of like diverting the attention kind of thing. So I mean, I like that scene a lot. Like I think it's because that whole like going from the petrol station going to the bridge, it establishes like a lot of stuff, like how they get their money, how they work cases, how they interact with law enforcement as well, because obviously the stuff they're doing, they're going to come across them like a lot.
Right.
And obviously Dean has no respect for the police.
This is true.
So they go and find this guy's girlfriend who's called Amy. So shout out.
Did you though actually before we go on to the next scene?
No, go ahead. Yeah.
Did you catch the FBI reference that he says? The
Mulder and
X-Files.
Scully.
Yeah, I was like, hell yeah. Because they obviously know that it's, you know, it would be an X-File case if it
Yeah.
were to ever be an FBI case. So it was kind of funny.
Was the X-Files still on that in 2005? Like, I feel like it... No, I think it must have
No, I
finished
don't
by
think
then.
so.
No, I remember being told to go to bed when my mum watched the X-Files. That's all that.
Let me have a look real quick when it ended, because I know it's come back again.
Yeah, it did. It came back recently. We can only hope. Look, classic series comes back after a decade.
Well, actually, it was 14 years. So it finished in
Ooh.
2002.
Oh, okay. So yeah, it had finished by then. But yeah, I yeah, pretty iconic.
Yeah. So I was like, haha, nice shot.
Exactly. So they go find this girl called Amy. So my name is Amy too. I was like, yes, I'm in the first episode of Supernatural. That is me. And I really, again, this is 2005, and how this girl and her friend are dressed with the full makeup, eyeliner halfway down their eye, bright red lipstick. I was like, that was peak me, 2005.
And you know what's so funny is like, you like looking at the boyfriend. I would have never have guessed that was his girlfriend.
Yeah, why has he got a cute goth girlfriend? I don't like.
Right. Whereas, and you know, his Gomez game is horrendous. Let's be
exactly.
real. Like, no.
So
And I just love. Okay, so I don't know what you're going to say, but
no, go ahead.
So you're in this situation. Your boyfriend just got killed.
Mm-hmm.
These two very young, attractive men come talk to you about your dead boyfriend, and yet you go on a ghost story. Like you tell a ghost story. Like that's where you go. Like what?
I mean, they established that she wears pentagrams, so surely she knows about ghosts. And that,
But like, surely you would assume that it wouldn't, like, the ghost story is not, doesn't, it feels a little forced, I have to say. Like, it didn't flow quite as easily as I think they would have hoped it would have.
No, she's like, I'm here to push the plot along.
Yeah, it really is that kind of, because there wasn't, the only thing is that, yeah, he just sort of disappeared, but, like, do they say that that's the, no, because they refer to the highway, the Centennial Highway.
Yeah,
but
not the bridge.
They never established that, like, the bridge is part of that highway.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like, I don't know. Anyway, that was my observation with that. It's like, I feel like if federal agents or police officers or whoever approached me about talking about my boyfriend who just got killed, I would not be talking about a ghost story. Like,
yeah,
no.
it's a weird one. Also, putting up missing posters like you've like lost a dog, like it's a bit weird. I don't know.
I mean,
Maybe
they do that, but like,
but she was the only one putting up these posters. Like, oh, I guess it's kind of sad. Like now I'm thinking about it, like no one else cared enough to put up a poster of him. Like, so they go back to the bridge then, which I guess must be on the highway because they seem to. Oh well, they saw the car there. Some connection is made. And they're all looking around, and the Impala tries to kill them. That was the best thing about it. That's such a good scene. That's such a good scene where Dean gets out his keys, and he's like, "Oh, I've got the keys." He just stands there for a second.
Who's driving your car?
Gold, comedy gold.
I mean, again, this is another like establishing of character of like, especially so the car starts, the car goes after them, and they both start running,
Yeah.
which I think realistically, wouldn't you just jump over the like side straight away?
So
Like you're not gonna
Yeah.
outrun a car. I know. I mean,
No.
it made for a really good shot, and I actually really liked how it was done. And you can also see how bow-legged Jensen Ackles is, which is kind of funny. But anyway, and then so they both jump over the side, and so again, this is showing how smart. I say smart in quotation marks.
Yeah.
Sam is. He only jumps like over the side but catches himself,
Yes.
whereas Dean goes over and into like the muddy bank.
If you watch it though, if you watch that shot, so like, yeah, Sam held on to the side and turned a little hop over. Dean fully threw himself off that bridge. So I'm out. There's a ghost car. I'm out. So, yeah, it's great. So yeah, and obviously he survives the jump off that tiny bridge with not a lot of water underneath it, and just gets really muddy and like him crawling out of that river. Oh my god. Yeah, it's great. But look, rest in peace that jacket. I didn't like you. I'm glad you got muddy and got thrown away.
But then he puts they then go to a motel in like the town. I guess it must be like one of the few ones, because I guess that this is a very fictional small town, so there aren't many motels. And they run across the fact that, so again, this is going back to the establishing like how they get their money and things. Dean explains that in their latest credit card scam, they got a 2-for-1 deal. It was a father and a son.
Yeah.
And so when he goes to the motel and goes to pay, the clerk sees the name on the credit card and then asks, "Are you guys having a family reunion?" And they find out that their dad has been there.
Yeah.
And has all this research on the walls, which I thought was kind of a nice little throwback. If you weren't paying attention, then you would kind of miss that kind of thing.
Yeah.
Maybe. I don't know.
Yeah, I think so. So yeah, they turn up like, I mean, Dean's completely covered in mud, which is first of all, and then they turn up in this like motel room, and it is just like crazy research all over the wall. I guess it kind of gives us a really, so you think you haven't seen John since the fire, and then the next, I mean, they've mentioned him obviously because they're looking for him, but the next kind of insight you get into him is like, oh, he looks really batshit crazy. Like he's covered the walls of this motel room in all this research. There's like salt on the floor, and he's like left like food about and stuff. So it's clearly establishing something about his character, that he's like
Obsessed.
almost a bit manic, like obsessed. So I think it was good that they found that motel room. If that makes sense, like it gives us a good idea of who John is now, because we don't meet him again for many episodes.
I think you're right.
Yeah. So I mean, Dean gets cleaned up and gets the brown jacket, which I love. He wears that jacket a lot, and that's a good jacket. I don't know if he still has that in later seasons, but I'm hung up on the wardrobe in this episode.
I mean, we kind of have to be for the episode that will not be named.
Yes. But yeah.
So he leaves the motel room, and so in the bridge shot when Dean like makes his throwaway comment of Agent Scully and Mueller, the sheriff, I guess, it's not really established who
I
he
would
was.
assume
I think it's
sheriff.
the sheriff of the town is kind of looking at him kind of suspiciously, and then they're outside the hotel room, and Dean gets arrested, which I don't know, that whole sequence was just like it made me chuckle just because he's taking it like so nonchalantly.
Yeah. I mean, so it again, it's saying, oh, this guy's definitely been arrested before. He doesn't care. And also that moment of him being like slammed on the bonnet of the police car, I've seen Gift so many times. So many times. I was like, oh, it's that scene. Oh, I've seen this scene before. Yeah. Of him just like smiling. It's like, yeah.
So,
because it tells us that yeah, he's been arrested before, and also that he's not worried about it. Like he knows he's going to get out of it, so it is fine.
you know, actually, I think we've missed a part because they go research in the library, but I don't remember if that was. Oh, so it was in between them talking to the girlfriend and them going to the bridge.
Yeah, you're right. I wrote that down actually. Yeah.
Because like you see sort of Dean doing the like old man typing with one finger at a time and like getting it wrong, like no results and stuff. Again, establishing that like he's smart, but he's not that smart. And then like I kind of love the like little. It was very much. I think that what made this show so great, especially in this first episode, is that you can see how brotherly the two actors are together. Even if this was the first like time they had met, or I don't know how long beforehand they had met each other and stuff. Because apparently that library scene was the first one they filmed.
Yeah, I read that too. Like, and they're like joking with each other, like slapping each other and stuff. Like, just like it's real sibling energy.
Which I thought was, you know, that was just really like, it was a cute scene for like such a like kind of insequential scene. I know they find out who the woman is or potentially who the woman could be.
Yeah.
And I don't know, it's just like, it was just funny to me. Anyway.
It's cute. And like, again, it's saying like, oh, Sam's really smart because he took over that like thing that Dean was trying to do with the computer. And just like immediately found the answer basically and came up with the fact that the woman had killed herself rather than been murdered, which is like quite important to the storyline. So and then when they get to the motel, all their research is confirmed by the stuff that John had found. So again, it's saying that John's good at his job. They got to the same conclusion that he did.
And again, in that the motel room, there was another one of their iconic phrases that came up of...
Yes, we didn't mention it. Oh my God. Okay, yes.
The no chick flick moments.
Yes.
No chick flick moments.
Oh, again, I was just so surprised that so many of these were established right at the beginning. Like, it never... I feel like that never really happens. Like, I don't know if that's, like, a little bit of, like, there isn't enough character development or, like, whatever. But I don't know. It's just... There's something about it that's just, like... I don't know. And then the whole, like, bitch and jerk as well.
Yeah.
Jerk. Bitch.
All the t-shirt slogans. They said them all
Basically.
in this episode.
They really did.
All the things that you never had on a Supernatural tote bag. They said
so. Actually, the one that they didn't say is the family business. That's the only one that didn't come up in this episode. I was waiting for it, like, thinking it would happen.
I thought it was going to be
but
there.
I'm not sure, like... Maybe that was like a later one. Maybe it's like season 2 or 3.
I always find no chick flick moments so funny because like it's such a throwaway line that people like attach themselves to, and also there are so many.
Yeah, you're right.
Like even in this episode, there's like crying and like stuff. You know, like let's say what you will about Supernatural, and they're like, oh yeah, these guys are really like macho, blah blah blah. But I think no chick flick moments is a complete, like, it's just so, it's funny because it's so not true. Like, I love that line. Yeah. And yeah, jerk and bitch. That comes up a few times, I think.
Yeah, that's like their main thing. So it was funny though, like the way, I don't know if this is the same for your version on the DVD, but I swear Jared's voice cracks when he says jerk, because it sounds like jerk.
Yeah, it sounds really odd. I mean, the sound in this episode is odd. Their voices sound so, I don't know, high pitched. Yeah, I'm sure it's been commented on before. I don't know why that is. Maybe it's just a difference in sound equipment and how it got better over the years. But or it's just because the fact they were younger. Like, honestly,
maybe I don't know.
So
I don't have the answer for that. But anyway, so going back to... So the reason why I bring that up is because when Dean is walking away, he calls Sam in the hotel room to say that 50 is outside or whatever.
Oh, yeah. It's the 50.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Then he gets arrested, and then... I think...
when I get
we
to,
follow Dean into the police station, correct?
Yeah. Yes, we do.
Right.
So because we see Sam kind of, he's looking out the window. We don't really see him get out of the hotel room, I don't think, but
Yeah,
he
no, I
does.
don't
But yeah, and then it's basically Dean being interviewed by the sheriff, the sheriff asking him who he is, because I guess he doesn't have any idea on him at all that's not fake.
Right.
So he said he's Ted Nugent, which I think is another person from classic rock, which is the kind of first time that they use a musician alias for something like this.
That just continues and continues.
But the whole interaction between the sheriff and Dean, I just love it. Like his complete disregard for any authority. He's just like, yeah, whatever. Like I'm not gonna be. He knows he's not gonna be stuck around there for very long.
But you see that the moment where like sort of, I want to say shit gets real, but it's not really. It gets real for the overarching story of like their dad is missing because he has his journal and they know that. I mean, later on there's a phone call, but like he sees that and he's like, "Oh shit, something's not right. Something's really wrong right now."
Yeah.
And that's also when the sheriff calls him Dean because there's a page in it that says Dean 35111, right?
Yeah, I think so. Which I couldn't remember what that meant, but it's explained later on. I think he said it's coordinates. I think he says to Sam. So. Yeah, I think you're right. Like he almost panics when he sees the journal because I guess it's something that's so like tied to John. He's like couldn't imagine him almost without it. To see it in there is like, oh no, something bad did happen. Like we're not just gonna find him. Like he's not gonna be just working this case. Like can we find him down the road a bit? You know?
Right. Exactly.
So, yeah, and then it does. So the sheriff gets a phone call. Oh no, a guy comes into the office and said there's been a shooting, so the sheriff leaves, and the camera does this amazing zoom on a paper clip, which I love.
One of the very, very overused zooms, especially that one season.
I'm going to shout out the zooms because they're one of my favourite things. The paper clip zoom was a good one.
Yeah, the thing that got me with that scene, it was like the way the sheriff was like, "Do you need to use a bathroom?" And he's like, "No," like kind of indignant that someone asked if you needed to use the bathroom.
Yeah. Why are you getting angry? He's just asking for handcuffs to the table.
So that's why there's the zoom into the paperclip.
Yeah. We don't actually see him pick the handcuffs though, do we?
No, the next scene is him like hiding around the corner, very like nobody can see me even though they can see me.
He climbed down like a fire escape or something. Like surely was the room not locked? Like anyway, there's a lot of unanswered questions as to how Dean got out of that police station, but I imagine it's a small police station, they probably weren't looking that hard.
No, I think like it's probably like there's probably like 5 people in the police department. Like we sort of saw half of the department already at the bridge.
Yeah, exactly. I think when the same guys came in actually some of the phone calls, that makes sense. Yeah. So he rings Sam and it turns out that Sam made the fake 911 call, which is classic. And then I guess like,
and that's also when we're like our theory is confirmed that having the journal like in Dean's possession is a bad thing. Like they established that like Dad never goes anywhere without this. Like something's going on.
Yeah. And then he'd left him a message, specific like coordinates to go to, because obviously John also seemed to know that something bad was going on. So it kind of almost shows that he trusted Dean to pick this up and also expected him to.
Yeah.
Like there was no sort of doubt when he left that message that Dean wasn't going to pick this up. Like he's just going to do one. So yeah, I mean the journal is obviously like a really big part of the whole first few series.
I feel like it's for like up until
at least series 5, surely.
I feel like maybe even 8. I really do. I think it's like their go-to for the longest, which is kind of interesting because, well, I guess I guess being an adult, you make notes. Because I was thinking, like, why wouldn't they, like, are we, I don't know. Anyway, I don't know what I'm trying to say, but
it never seemed to get like added to. It always just seems to be that same book, like a really like almost like historical piece that they don't really seem to add to, or even like start their own. And I don't know.
Yeah.
I'm sure we'll come back to the journal many times.
I agree with you.
So, like Sam was sat in the parlor when he got that phone call, and the woman in white decides like to go after him, and I'm not sure why. I think he was maybe driving along the highway.
Yes, he was.
Where she's been seen.
Because while Dean is being interviewed, they cut to Sam interviewing the woman's wife. They find out who she is, like how she died, and like why she killed herself. She drowned her children, and then killed herself. And then he goes to the husband.
Sorry, I wrote next to this, chill Sam, what the fuck? Because he establishes all this is true with her husband, but then goes on to be like, well, you must have been unfaithful and it made her insane and then she killed her children. And I was like, well, first of all, maybe that's true, but you don't know that for sure. You're like saying that, telling this guy whose wife and children are dead that it was all his fault. Like, what's going on with you, Sam? You're having a bad day.
You're right. I didn't quite pick up on the same way, but yeah, no, you're right. It's kind of aggressive. I mean, it felt very dramatic, like he was walking away and then suddenly like turns back and is like, whole new attitude.
Yeah, I do have to say something actually. Did you cheat on your wife? Because if you did, this is all your fault.
Right. Like, I mean, I know that, so they didn't really, I feel like later on in seasons they kind of explain the lore a little bit better behind certain creatures. So this one, he's trying to do that here, like saying this is how Woman in White is formed. Mm-hmm. But I feel like I mean, I haven't looked into, like, because obviously the Woman in White is actually a real ghost story, if you want, phenomenon, whatever you want to call it. So, like, is this the only way that a Woman in White is formed? Probably not. Is it the most common way? Maybe. So you're right. He was kind of, there's no need to go all in with that.
I feel it was a bit aggressive. But again, it's doing something to establish Sam's character. Like, I think it's trying to show that he cares about the truth. Because he wants to know exactly why this happened, not so much just solving it, but he wants to know why as well. He actually got invested in this case pretty quickly, considering that he didn't want to go. Which again, it speaks to his character, I guess, and it kind of that follows him through as well. I think that kind of need to know why things are going on, where maybe Dean doesn't always need to know why things are going on.
I mean, I know he hasn't quite gotten to law school yet, but like he would have done pre-law in his undergrad. He's not very good at interrogating people.
Yeah, I guess so.
That was very much like a, I don't know. I'm again, like he's not a lawyer yet, but like if you want to be, I feel like there's already a certain way that you talk to people and like get information out of people. Yeah. And this is a bit like, whoa, okay, well, you're not going to be a very good lawyer.
It was a bit aggressive, but fine. So they found that out. So he was going to go look for her basically, and then she decides to go after him. And it's all very spooky. It's like flicking between her face is all like weird and ghosty, and then like really beautiful again. And then she makes the car drive to her house, which is what she did with the previous guy before she killed him on the bridge. So she must take him to the house and then leave again, which is a bit odd, but fine.
That was the thing, like she's saying that she can never go home, but she wants to go home. So yeah, going to the house is kind of the kind of objective. Yeah. So I have one question. How I don't remember this. How did Dean get to the house? Like, did he have a car?
No, that's a really good question. How did he get to that house? I mean, so Sam sat in the car, like the woman's coming onto him pretty strong, and she like kisses him, which was super uncomfortable.
Yes.
But it's not played for laughs, which I appreciate. Yeah, and then like tries to kill him by like digging her weird ghost hands into his chest, and then
To explode his heart, I guess.
yeah, and then Dean shoots her through the Impala window. Yeah, how did he get? I didn't even think about that. How did he get? Ran.
And so quickly, because I swear he's like on the phone with Sam.
Yeah, and his house looks to be like quite far away from the town. Maybe he hotwired a car.
Maybe, yeah. But we'll give it a pass just because it's a pilot episode. They don't have budget. Like they have to tell the story. So we'll give it a pass.
Like, yeah, so I did immediately I went, why is he shooting that ghost with a gun? And then I realised like I've watched too much Supernatural at this point.
Yeah.
Because like it obviously doesn't work. Also, he just shot the window out the Impala, which okay.
Yeah.
So like
Okay, actually, I'm gonna.
Did he drive the car into the house before or after he shot the window? Sorry, yeah, we're getting out of order.
So, I just want to say this. So he was arrested, taken to the police station. I mean, okay, I'm about to answer it myself.
Okay, yeah.
Where did the gun come from?
He stole the police car, right?
Yeah, you're probably right. Yeah.
I don't know. Look. I'm in the UK, so I don't know. But I'm sure all American police keep guns in their cars.
Because I mean, they would have been hunting ghosts. I mean, that's the most common thing that they probably come across.
Yeah.
So they know how to, like, ward off a ghost. Mm-hmm. They already kind of established that by saying like there's salt on the floor. Yeah. But we all know now that salt repels ghosts.
Exactly.
So him just shooting a regular gun in a window is kind of silly.
I guess he was just worried, but it is silly.
Yeah.
I think so. Then Sam crashes the car into the house, and I can't remember which order it happens in. Either Sam crashes the car into the house, and then Dean shoots the window, or the other way around. It doesn't really matter, because Sam's figured out that the ghost doesn't want to go into the house, so he's going to take her there like forcibly by driving the car straight into it. Yeah. And I just cringed. I was like, no, the Impala. Dean's going to be so mad. I think he crashed the car first. I think he did.
Yeah, I think you're right.
So, yeah. So the ghost is sad. Like, she disappeared when Dean shut the window. And she sees, like, her kids upstairs and, like, that she drowned. And what do you think happened? I don't think they, like, exorcised that ghost. I think her children dragged her to hell. That's what it looked like.
I'm in agreement with you on that one. I am in agreement with you on that one. I think that's exactly what happened.
Yeah. It was super creepy for a Supernatural episode. Like, there was like things coming out of the floor, like crazy weird like meat
like
ghosts.
Tentacle things.
Yeah. It was super dark. Also, I'd like to point out they didn't really properly solve the case. Sam just sort of crashed the car into the house on a hunch, and then it kind of all worked out.
Yeah, right, yeah.
They didn't really do any like typical ghost slaying stuff. They didn't burn the body. They never actually got around to doing that.
No, you're right.
They kept talking about doing it and never did.
Well, so they kind of went back and forth on whether their dad did it or not, because remember that they were saying that you can burn the body or something else is keeping the ghost here. And so that was something else. Like, she couldn't face the fact that she had killed her kids.
Yeah. Which is super dark for a first episode.
It kind of is. And I kind of love it.
I mean, they wrapped it up pretty nicely, I think, this story, because they established the story that she'd done this thing. And to be honest, I don't think it was very clear whether she did it intentionally or not, like whether her children drowned by accident or she did actually kill them. It wasn't really fully revealed.
So, yeah, you're right on that. I'm just thinking, like, from what we know as we go on in the show, like, ghosts usually stay in what they were wearing when they died.
Yeah.
And if you look at what they're wearing, they are fully clothed.
Oh, that's a really good point. That's good detail.
So
Yeah.
I'm gonna guess that she did
Yeah,
fully
she did
drown them. So I mean
Super
that's
creepy.
kind of horrific, but
Yeah. Like, so yeah, they see this horrible thing of this ghost being dragged to hell by her children, and then like Dean immediately like checks the car because of course he does.
I'll tell you another thing. If you screwed up my car, I'll kill you.
And
I mean,
Sam makes
like-
a joke. Yeah.
I feel like with any dark situation you kind of do have to joke about it. So this is probably their way of like dealing with what they've just
Yeah.
seen.
I mean, I
obviously-
think we've all been in those situations where you need to
Yeah.
joke about something. Yeah, for sure.
And but then they get back in the car. Okay, another thing that I need to go back and maybe check. I feel like the window is fixed.
See, I looked, but okay. when they do drive later, it is like open at least. So I don't think.
Oh, okay.
I don't know if they
I
did
think
fix
they-
it. Yeah.
But I
like-
did notice that the one of the headlights was out.
Yeah, one of the back lights is out on the Impala. One of
And
the
one of the
headlights
front
is
ones.
out. When the ghost car was driving to the house, I noticed one of the brake lights is out as well. So clearly someone's not been looking after that car. So
Yeah, for
Sam
sure.
also says to Dean before they get in the car, seriously shooting Casper in the face. like he knew that it was stupid that he tried to shoot the ghost, which I appreciate.
What were you thinking, shooting Casper in the face, you freak?
I think I like that a lot. So yeah, he checks the car and then they drive on, and I guess Dean's explaining that he needs to go find John, and just
Right.
kind of is talking like he's assuming that Sam's going to go with him, and he's like, nah, mate.
Because I mean, so Sam's in the passenger side and he's just figured out like where the coordinates leave.
Yeah.
Which, like, I haven't looked at an actual map in a really long time. But don't they like on a aren't they made slightly differently? So if you
I
had
think-
like a map
yeah.
from 2 years ago versus a map from today, wouldn't like the numbers be a little bit different, or do they try and keep it all the same?
Oh, I don't think they do. I don't think they. I thought you needed at least like 3 as well. Wasn't there only 2 numbers, or was it 1? I don't know.
It was 2 numbers, but so what you so.
I guess
And
it's the latitude,
this is
longitude.
pulling like memory from like a long time ago, because it's like, you know how like, it's basically like there's numbers along the bottom and there's longer numbers along the side, on like a regular map.
Yeah.
So you would you would look along the map and see like 35, and then you'd go up to 111, and that's sort of like the grid in which
Yeah,
you're
that
looking
makes
at.
sense. But I guess it depends on the scale of the map. Those numbers would change, right? So they would have to have
that's
a
what I'm
specific
thinking.
version of the map. I don't know. I'm not sure, because like I looked at a bit of this and it actually said where he says those coordinates are is that not actually what's on those coordinates if you look them up. So there may be some truth in that.
Right. I don't know. Like, and I feel like
Yeah.
for I mean, I guess you can't like, because you want to keep it cryptic. If you put like real coordinate numbers, which is like, it's usually like 2 numbers and then a decimal point and then like 4
Yeah.
numbers, I think. So it's
Yeah.
very like, it's actually very long, sometimes even bigger. If the police saw that, they would definitely be able to know what that means.
That's true. Maybe they're like secret hunter coordinates or something.
It could be, and also it could be like, it doesn't. How much of the stuff did Sam take out of the room? Obviously, he didn't take a lot, but maybe he did take a map just to actually see where, like, he had to go. Because I mean, in this new town, they'd never been to here before, so he had to find where the husband lived.
Yeah.
So maybe he had taken the map that was in the room, so that way it would make sense.
Yeah, that's a fair shout. I mean,
I don't know.
they must have lost
I
a
couldn't
load of
reach it.
stuff actually when they left that like motel room, because the police were pretty much they were going to look in there, so he would have only had time to grab a few stuff. I guess the guy, the sheriff, had a box of stuff. Again, that was all lost though. I think Dean only took the journal. Oh,
Yeah.
Interesting.
But
Like,
so I think all of the paper that was in there though was related to this case.
yeah.
Maybe, I don't know. Maybe this is something to look back at to see what was
Possibly.
actually on those walls.
Yeah, it did look all related to the case, to be honest.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah,
And,
like I think the law's really interesting when it comes to stuff like this, like trying to figure out how they actually figure things out.
for sure. And then they go back to having a conversation of like, oh, let's go, like you're saying, Dean's acting like, yeah, he's just gonna come along, like whatever.
Yeah.
Let's go. We can make it there in like 10 hours or whatever. Which I don't know about that. Whether they try and get to Colorado from well, maybe you could do it. It wouldn't be.
True.
It wouldn't be fun, but you could
Yeah.
probably do it. But and then Sam's saying like, well, no, I have an interview in 10 hours. Like that's not gonna fly.
Yeah.
And then we get the second iconic shot of the entire season. Or yeah, I guess this season in the show,
Yeah.
with him on the bed, having blood dripped on him.
Yes.
22 years later.
Like, yeah, so
And-
because obviously like Dean did drop him back at Stanford, like he did what he said. I was like, with no real fuss. And then yeah, he comes back like, oh, the shower's running, that's why he thinks like Jessica's waiting for him. But yeah, he turns out nope, she's gone the same way as old Mary Winchester on the ceiling.
Yeah.
Just super sad. I like Jessica. She's only in it for one episode. I like Jessica.
Me too.
But like, the thing is, if they hadn't killed her off, he would have had no reason to go, which is sad.
Yeah.
Because he definitely would have stayed at Stanford if Jessica hadn't died. Which, look, we'll discuss this later, but it seems a choice on the person that killed Jessica, because surely it would have just been easier if he'd stayed at Stanford.
Well,
Like,
okay, we'll have to talk about that when it comes up. 'Cause
Yeah.
I'm not sure what you mean by that.
ooh.
Because if you think about what happens, I really can't.
We can't. No, we're not going into it. I'll bring this up again later. I'll remember, and we'll talk about it then.
Okay, that sounds
But yeah,
good.
I don't, we can argue about this. I think it would have been easier, but we'll go there. So yeah, dead Jessica. I put dead Jessica sad face. I was sad about Jessica.
Yeah.
And then Dean turns up again. How did he know?
Well, so he obviously, like, that whole transition wasn't very fast. It doesn't show Sam like puttering around. It's literally like Sam walks in, goes to bed, sees Jessica. So that's kind of short. And so Dean already knows where Sam lives. So he's probably, I don't know if you've ever like just sort of looked out the window to check
That's true.
behind
It's like
you.
making sure he's all right. Yeah.
Yeah, like, because obviously he cares about his family, so he just wants to make sure that, admittedly, like, the flames start and then Dean's there, which is kind of crazy. That's
There's a deleted scene for this, which I
Okay.
watched on the DVD. And the deleted scene it shows Sam going in, eating a cookie, which he does in that, and then it cuts to Dean and he's driving away and he looks at his watch and his watch has stopped. So then he turns around, he's like, oh crap, and like he doesn't say anything. He turns the car around and goes back, and that's the whole scene. And that makes sense because I think in the first scene where Mary's on the ceiling, the clock had stopped in the nursery as well.
Yeah, it had.
So that kind of tied that together. So actually he noticed that and went back because he knew something was wrong, which I think is such a shame that they deleted that scene actually, because I think it was quite a good way of like establishing that something like spooky was going on. I mean,
Yeah.
obviously it is someone's on the ceiling on fire, but also that it's also related. I don't know, like
Yeah.
it's obvious it is anyway, but yeah, so that's why he turns up. I mean, it is a deleted scene, but it's because like there were signs.
Well, so you know, just thinking about that, if they kept that in, the shock value of seeing Jessica on the ceiling wouldn't
Yeah.
have been there, because you know it would have
Exactly.
been coming.
Yeah. I think I can't remember how it cuts. I feel like you see her screaming on. No, it's not. It is before you see her, so like you would know something was up. Yeah, that's true. That's a good reason for taking it out. So yeah, I mean, the scene is actually super. They shot it super similarly from the beginning and the end, where the fire trucks turn up. Like even the shot that has it like pans out of the fire engines is very similar, and you see them standing like watching the fire next to the Impala. And then, yeah, like, Sam's really sad. He's crying. Again, no chick flick moments, but man tears, you know.
Right.
Loading a shotgun. I'm not quite sure why.
I mean, you gotta get your anger out, so it's either
You gotta do something, yeah.
you gotta do something.
So, yeah, and they say, again, another iconic line, like, we've got work to do, and, like, slam the trunk.
We got work to do.
And, like, that's the end of the episode.
That
So,
was the end of the episode. Fade to
again...
black.
I know. Great.
Well, it's not even face black, it's like slam to black.
Yeah. In the deleted scene of that, it's just a bit longer. Like, Dean actually asks Sam if he's okay. And he's just, like, doesn't really say anything. And then you actually watch the car, like, drive off after they've, like, shut the trunk. Which I kind of appreciate they cut that down. I think the slamming of the trunk is quite a good way to end the episode.
Yeah, like especially, like, again, this is referring to that review of it being a solid opening. Like, seeing that, you want to know what's going to happen next, for sure. Like,
Exactly.
they set up, like, a really good story.
Yeah.
Like
Like-
they didn't try to, I feel like some, like, pilot episodes, because they, maybe the writers knew that this had potential, so they wanted to keep it a little bit open. But I feel like some pilot episodes, they try to sort of wrap everything up in that first episode, so it's the sort of like,
Yeah.
there isn't so much of a cliffhanger. Like, are they going to find his dad? Like, where is his dad? What's going on with that?
Exactly. And, like, they basically only introduce you to two characters, which is Sam and Dean. I know John's in there as well, but he's sort of almost like a mystery character. You don't really know anything about him. He didn't really say anything in the episode other than to Dean, really, to, like, take your brother outside. So he's kind of a mystery figure. And yeah, like, I definitely want to watch the next episode. Like, I'm super excited for it.
Yeah, me too. Me too. And, like, I do appreciate the aesthetic of the earlier seasons. Like, I mean, it's kind of annoying and where I'm watching it, like, I'm kind of bright in here, so sometimes you can see your own reflection, because the episodes are so, like, dark.
Yeah.
But it's very fitting to what's going on. So I'm not mad about it. It's just, you know, I do like the look of the earlier seasons.
Yeah. So, I mean, I was reading on, like, I think it was IMDb, and Kripke said, like, some of his sort of inspiration for this came from, like, Sandman and things like that. And I thought, oh, this obviously makes sense of why we like this. Like, that kind of, like, aesthetic, like, dark aesthetic. It just, I don't know, it's pretty much, for me, sort of influenced everything I've liked afterwards as well. You know, so I found out about, like, you know, lots of things from Supernatural that have sort of, and I'll point them out as we go through, like pop culture references and stuff, like things I started watching because of that. But no, I would agree with the reviews on this. I think it's a really solid episode. The story is interesting. I didn't get bored watching at any point. I couldn't fully remember what happened in the episode. So I wanted to figure it out. And it was a good Monster of the Week episode as well.
It really was.
Without
Like,
being,
it was an interesting.
yeah, without being too heavy on the lore. It was like, oh, it's a ghost. She's a ghost for these reasons, and she's killing people, like just cause. Wasn't And we're gonna go, like, stop her while looking for our dad. Like that's the first few seasons of Supernatural, like, rolled up, isn't it? Like what it's gonna be about.
Yeah.
So yeah.
And like, so you also have that other element of who was the guy in the bedroom, like.
Oh yeah.
Like, you don't really think about that too much because it's not really brought up again, not until like a little bit later on. But like, if you think of, like, say you've watched this for the first time back in 2005, and you're going to be asking, well, what about that guy? Like,
yeah, who was that guy?
Where is he?
Yeah,
like,
exactly.
And obviously, he's related to how Jessica died, so it's kind of it's interesting.
Yeah, were they then specifically targeted? Like, why has it happened to both of them? It wasn't just seemed to be a random one-off thing, which is almost how it's framed in the beginning. It's just random,
right?
And especially then you get the ghost story where she's picking up random guys. You think, oh well, yeah, these supernatural things are happening to anybody, but like, yeah, that's why I think the end where Jessica's on the ceiling makes it so, like, shocking.
Yeah.
Because I think I remember watching that the first time I watched this episode, which was a while ago, and being surprised by
me too
that. It's spooky.
Because I was kind of like, you're lulled into a false sense of security. Like, they've ended the case, they've got the bad guy, everything's fine. He went home, he's gonna live his life.
Yeah.
Oh shoot.
Yeah, it's spooky.
Yeah.
Oh. So yeah, I really enjoyed it. I'm glad I watched this one again.
Yeah, me too.
I don't know what the next episode is. I was just gonna look on in my DVD case that I've got open beside me. Let me have a look. So, episode 2 is Wendigo. Ooh.
Yeah, Wendigo.
I don't remember anything about it. I think it's in a forest. That's all I remember.
Yeah.
I feel like there's a forest.
I think you're right. A forest and a cave.
Oh, maybe, yeah. It's outside somewhere.
So I was just looking up some more, like, trivia stuff.
Yeah, let's go for it.
And, like, can you imagine if it wasn't the Winchesters but Harrison?
No, I don't like it. But do you think that's because of the Han Solo Luke Skywalker thing? Like Harrison Ford? Maybe.
It could very well be. But also, actually thinking back on it, they don't mention their last name in this episode.
They don't say Winchester at any point. Maybe they hadn't decided yet.
Yeah, maybe.
When
that's
they
probably
shot
what
the
it
pilot.
was.
Yeah. Like, because I say that because, like, this was the only episode that they ever shot in, like, America. This was shot in California and LA. All the other ones were then obviously shot in Vancouver. So I feel like there must have been some time gap between the pilot. Obviously there was, and then the rest of the season.
Sure. Yeah.
So they probably hadn't ironed a few things out, like surnames. I mean, Winchester's a good choice there, isn't it? Let's be honest.
It really is. It has such, like, it has so much history tied to it. Like, obviously, I'm not sure if they ever really make the sort of gun reference.
I don't think so.
But, like, you just think of the Winchester house in San Jose. I've actually been to it. It is kind of freaky, but it also, the way that I felt when I was in there, I felt incredibly sad. Like, this poor woman felt like she was, warding off ghosts of the people that her husband's guns had shot and killed.
Yeah.
And the only way to stop the ghosts was to be constantly building.
Yeah.
So there's stairways that go to nowhere, doors that do nothing. So you're walking around and just, like, this poor woman, she was just tormented. And so, like, some people were, like, being like, oh, ooh, ghost stories. So I was like, no, I just feel really sad. I mean, it's a beautiful house, like, absolutely gorgeous. I know we're going completely off topic here, but
fine.
Just, in terms of Winchester being ghost stories and ghost hunting.
Yeah.
So that one thing that really stood out to me is that she had this amazing ballroom and like parlor and everything. And one night it caught on fire. So she blocked it off. Nobody was allowed in there.
Spooky.
Because like she was like freaked out by this fire that happened. It was, I'm not sure when this was, but I'm guessing like the early 18th century.
Yeah.
When this was being built. So obviously fires happened because they were not, you know, they were not building like they build now.
Yeah.
So it was just, you know, it was very interesting that like she was so superstitious. And
yeah. It would have been nice to have a nod to that like history in the series, and like maybe we could have done, I don't know, maybe they didn't want to associate directly with the Winchester house and the guns, but that could have been really, really cool.
I mean, yeah, Winchester is also just I feel like it's a very classic name. I don't know if that's just like me.
I mean, obviously there's a city in the south of England called Winchester, and there's Winchester Cathedral. But I don't know where it specifically comes from.
Yeah, no. I guess that's something that if we ever get to talk to the Eric Kripke or whoever,
yeah,
like where he decided on Winchester. Like,
yeah, that's a really good question. I'm sure the answer's out there somewhere. I might have to go research. Right, I think let's wrap this episode up. So that was pilot. I mean, we've done about as much time as I think we thought we would. So this is probably how long the episodes are going to be, I expect.
Yeah.
So yeah, thank you for joining us. I don't think we ever introduced ourselves. So I'm Amy.
And I'm Annabelle. As we go forward, we may not do every single episode because there are, with any series, there are filler episodes that kind of don't mean anything and or just like are a little bit too silly. Well, not silly, but it's like, I don't know.
They don't add anything to the series.
Yeah, they don't add anything, and it's just not. They're not noteworthy. So we may like mention it in passing, like season 1, episode 6. It was good, but there was nothing to talk about.
Yeah.
So we're going to move on to 7. Just an example, not what we're going to do, but especially in the later seasons, there's definitely some that we can just be like, oh, they had to fill 26 episodes. Okay, let's just put this in.
Exactly. Yeah, I think I'm looking forward to the next one. So I think at the end of each, when we're talking, we'll discuss the next, which one's coming up, and maybe whether or not we're thinking about watching it. That seems sensible. So I think, yeah, Wendigo, I definitely want to watch it. I can't remember what it's about. I haven't looked up any reviews on it yet, so I don't know how well it was received, but I think I remember it being okay.
I mean, it's gonna be hit like.
It's gonna be hit and miss.
Yeah, for a little bit before they get like into their characters.
Exactly.
Oh, so I just read a little bit of this. Anyway.
I'm getting excited now for next week.
Yes.
So
yes, I am.
Yeah, we're gonna try and put out an episode every week, as much as we can do. I think that seems sensible. We have sort of socials up, which will sort of link underneath the podcast. So please follow us on there and leave any comments about this episode or upcoming episodes. Anything you want us to like specifically discuss, or anything that you want us to talk about. We'll read your comments, all of them, I'm sure. And
unless it's mean, and then we'll just be like, you know.
Exactly. So yeah, let's do a sign off, Annabelle. I'm ready. So I haven't done this before. Let's go for it. We're gonna say thank you very much for trying to escape purgatory with us. We haven't made it out yet, but maybe next time. What was that?